COVID-19, the Ukraine war, and oil prices are contributing to a drop in cargo demand worldwide. This is the reflection in global air markets in March, according to data from the International Air Transport Association. Sanctions against Russia led to disruptions in manufacturing, and rising oil prices are having a negative economic impact, including raising costs for air cargo. So how the industry defies the odds and keeps pushing is our subject of discussion. Plus, efforts to stem irregular migration as experts seek the implementation of the Nigeria Memorandum of Understanding. That's our preview. Let's get started. Air cargo is indeed a trade facilitator that contributes to global economic development and creates millions of jobs. Air cargo transports over $6 trillion worth of goods, accounting for approximately 35% of world trade by value before the pandemic. During the pandemic, air cargo also saw a great climb owing to the absence of passenger movement. Some of the goods usually transferred by air include urgent and high-volume goods, intercontinental urgent mail, spare parts for land vehicles, spare parts for the aerospace industry, perishable food, materials for fairs and events, as well as plants. While these goods take advantage of speed, demand for air cargo fell in March 2022, according to IATA's data released in May. Some of the factors include China's zero-COVID policies and the Russia-Ukraine war, which weighed on demand and is threatening to become a longer-term hindrance.
What is happening in the world? Like China, they are in another phase of a lockdown, especially Guangzhou and Urumqi, where we have cargoes coming in, southern China. So they are under lockdown for a very long time, and up to now, the flights from there are still not coming as we speak. So that accounts for very low volume of cargo post-pandemic. And of recent, the Russia-Ukraine war has also affected the world supply chain. And by implication, we also have a lower cargo volume coming to Nigeria as well.
Global air cargo demand measured in cargo ton kilometers fell by 5.2% in March compared to the same month in 2021. IATA reports while capacity was up 1.2% on the same basis, the airline body notes that this is a significant decline from the year-on-year increase seen in February, with Asia and Europe experiencing the largest falls. So how does this apply to the local sector here?
It has a direct impact on our businesses, because our business in terms of revenue we get here has to do with the volume of cargo that comes in. So when the cargo volumes are not much, automatically we have lower revenue from that sector. Any export from Nigeria to EU or all those countries affected by war, we won't be able to send it. No, I know basically some flights will not be able to go to all these war-torn areas. How it affects export might not be. So export is also based on demand. And some of Nigerians that live abroad, most of the export that goes from here are consumables by Nigerians that live in those countries. So some of them are back home, some haven't gone back to the destination. So it's either here or there, but exports will not be like that affected as imports, because most of them are household goods, not commercial per se.
When the purchasing power of people increase, they now begin to prioritize their expenses. And some of the things that are easily cut off is luxury items, entertainment, to start going down. So they just prioritize on those things, and then people will conserve cash.
Commodities shipped by air do have high values per unit but are very time sensitive. The demand for air freight is limited by cost, typically priced 4 to 5 times that of road transport and 12 to 16 times that of sea transport.
Because the price of aviation fuel has gone up, something that we used to bring from China, for example, at $7 per kg, is now going up as $10 per kg. And for Nigeria, we have a double jeopardy because of the exchange rate. So the exchange rate, most of the exchange rate we get now is from the black market, parallel market. CBN has excluded about 41 to 43 items that cannot access that particular CBN window.
Away from cargo business operations, major operators also play in the ground handling sector, which refers to the wide range of services provided to facilitate an aircraft's flight, which also includes both customer service and ramp service functions. Cargo handlers at airports have a critical role to play in keeping essential goods moving by providing appropriate equipment for unloading the different types of aircraft.
So they can bring another one.
On our interview segment, our guest is Mr. Basil Agwarumi, the Managing Director of SACO PLC, a company that is an active player in the cargo subsector in Nigeria. He starts by saying the business is bleeding.
It's like government doesn't even have time for anybody now because we are bleeding. Businesses are bleeding. I think that's the word. They are bleeding seriously. We are struggling to stay afloat. You need, for example, business is seriously dependent on the forex. You need to buy equipment, and now, this issue of diesel have come in. I tell people that before the pandemic, I will always give a scenario. Yes, our equipment, we have almost about 500 plus equipment on the ramp, and all of them are dependent on diesel. So you need diesel to operate them. That is just the running cost of day-to-day running. I've not spoken about the spare parts because all our equipment are not produced in Nigeria. So when you need to get spare parts, you need to get them from abroad also. I've not spoken about the cost of purchase of those equipment. So by the time you talk about the cost of diesel, before the pandemic, 33,000 liters of petrol that we pick from time to time for our Lagos operation. We spent about 5-point-something million, and that is just Lagos operation, and that will last us for about 3 weeks. But as I talk to you now, the last document I signed out of this place was about 21-point-something million. I always say is that yes, during the pandemic, the cargo actually picked up because everything was tilted towards cargo. It was a business we were pitching for in a particular country then. Of course, we have to use DHL cargo. That was the only flight that was moving. So, but after that, things have really picked up, but it's not as what it was during the pandemic. I always tell people, I say, like in Nigeria, if you are traveling to maybe the UK now, or many people traveling, they will carry their food stuff, or they give food stuff to somebody. So it's considered as baggage, which passes 23 kg that is allowed on your aircraft. But during the pandemic, people were still eating. Those things were still moving, but they were all moved as cargo. So those are some of the difference in terms of import and export. And I think it was the same thing all over the world. And you'll understand that even at that time, the freighters were not enough. So many airlines had to convert their passenger planes to cargo. And some of them are trying to get used to it now because some of them are still on, but some are already moving to passenger flights. Yes, and many of the airlines, those of the routes that were closed before, many of them have returned back to their routes. So cargo, yeah, it's building up. We could say maybe pre-pandemic, what it was before that time, it could have got to that, but cargo was at its peak during the pandemic. Of course, we are talking about elections. It's another opportunity for us to redefine our hope as a country because it affects everywhere. We need to give hope to the generation yet unborn. We need to tell them that Nigeria is a country that is blessed. But for us that have chosen to take leadership position, you must know that if you are not ready to give leadership, to give what leadership takes, then clear out of the way and let the people that have the capacity to do it, let them drive it.
Recovery post the COVID-19 pandemic, not just in passenger numbers, but also in the area of safety and security, is key for the aviation industry, both in Africa and the Indian Ocean region. Within this hall in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, are the creme de la creme of the industry from the AFI region and the International Civil Aviation Organization.
Today is a clear demonstration of the strengthening the civil aviation community and solidarity in this continent. Moreover, it is an important acknowledgement that we are stronger and more prosperous when we are better connected, and that nothing can connect Africa as efficiently and reliably as air transport does. Furthermore, I interpret our in-person presence today as another very important step toward putting this pandemic behind us and reconnecting the world.
While governments around the world have provided about $400 billion to airlines to support survival and restart efforts, financial relief to African airlines is estimated to be about a paltry $2.7 billion. Therefore, there is work to be done to push aviation beyond the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. An expert believes this will include changes in COVID-19 testing.
Is still putting Africa at disadvantage. The PCR test being the standard test required for African states costs between $30 to $150 per test across countries in Africa. An increase of 10% of travel costs, as you know, can reduce the demand at continental level by 15%, according to IATA. In order to support a sustainable reopening of air transport services, the African Union, through Africa CDC, is recommending member states to encourage the use of rapid diagnostic antigen tests for fully vaccinated passengers. The AU Task Force on the Safe Reopening of Borders is also working on harmonizing existing digital platforms for traveler health credentials and border requirements.
For Nigeria's aviation minister, human development is important to the restart plans. He asked the International Civil Aviation Organization to revive its development fund.
I wish to seize this opportunity to appeal to member states here present and the African Civil Aviation AFCAC, and a call to the ICAO SecGen to use his good offices to revive the ICAO Human Resource Development Fund, the HRDF program, which has remained inactive since 2018. Nigeria generously contributed to this fund and equally benefited from the inaugural secondment of officers to ICAO under this program. The exposure, experience, and knowledge gained by the officers attest to the usefulness of this program. Nigeria will continue to support ICAO's initiative and collaborate with member states and development partners on the development of air transport in Africa.
Strengthening safety and security in the sector is uppermost, but cooperation is also a factor that ensures that no nation is left behind. That's a message from Singapore's Senior Minister of Sustainability.
We can broaden and strengthen our efforts to restore civil aviation activities, including enhancing aviation safety, security, facilitation, and sustainability among all stakeholders. In this spirit, I'm pleased to announce that Singapore will be happy to make contributions totaling US $100,000 in cash and in kind to the AFI plan and the AFI SACFAL plan. This to advance ICAO's strategic objectives on aviation safety and security.
Lost on African states as Nigeria signs a memorandum of understanding with Rwanda.
Let me also begin to prepare the hearts of Sierra Leone.
And another one with Sierra Leone.
Is within the Bagasso state. Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Liberia.
Following the outbreak of monkeypox, the federal government says it has tightened surveillance at the airports and borders to check travelers, especially those coming from Europe and other countries where the outbreak has been reported. The Minister of Agriculture and Development said that the federal government has set up an interministerial committee to fast-track collaboration to prevent the entrance and spread. And this is to avoid the kind of emergency that arose with the advent of COVID-19 across the globe. Qatar Airways has said fellow Gulf Arab airlines will operate more than 180 daily shuttle flights to Qatar during this year's Soccer World Cup, allowing fans to fly in from nearby cities and easing accommodation pressure in Doha. Qatar Airways Chief Executive Officer Akbar Al-Baker told a news conference that fellow airlines from the Gulf, which include Fly Dubai, Oman Air and Kuwait Airways, will be among those airlines that would operate shuttle flights into Doha. Taxi drivers have blocked access to the Mexico City International Airport to protest ride-hailing apps. The demonstration blocked access to Terminals 1 and 2 at the Benito Juarez International Airport in Mexico City. Police were deployed to help passengers make their flights. Taxi drivers also blocked major roads in Mexico City to protest the action of ride-hailing apps in recent years, calling for them to be subject to the same regulations as taxis. This latest demonstration comes with the airport already under increased scrutiny for air traffic safety. Nepalese search and rescue teams have found the flight's voice recorder and recovered the body of 22 people aboard a small plane that crashed in the Himalayas. 2 Germans, 4 Indians and 16 Nepalese were on the de Havilland, Canada DHC 6-300 twin otter aircraft that crashed 15 minutes after taking off from the tourist town of Pokhara. The bodies will be released to the families following an autopsy and identification. The downed plane was bound for Jomsom, a popular tourist and pilgrimage site 80 kilometers northwest of Pokhara, on what should have been a 20-minute flight.
Human trafficking is a multi-billion-dollar industry, which translates to the third largest in the world as of September 2021. The International Organization for Migration said it has assisted in bringing back 21,500 stranded Nigerians from Libya, Mali, among others, in the last 4 years.
Irregular migration normally should not exist between Niger and Nigeria, or at all in the real context, because you have people under the wrong context travel for the wrong reasons or with half information. So you have people traveling without documentation to pursue a dream that is really based on wrong information. So when you have irregular migration, you have young people or even older people traveling out of the country without documentation, without a visa, trying to cross over to another territory without the requisite documents for them to do so.
For many of these returnees, Agadez in Niger appears to be a constant mention on the lips, as it is a transit town in Niger as many head for Libya. Last year, Niger and Nigeria signed a memorandum of understanding to stem the tide of human trafficking between both countries. Some 6 months down the line, critical parties to the agreement gather to take a look at its implementation, seeking to put in place a long-term institutionalization of cooperation between both countries in the fight against human trafficking.
fighting human trafficking, maybe it's the most difficult thing in the world. These human traffickers are quick, they are very smart, very vigilant, so it's not an easy job. And that's why you really need each other, because if you go to one place, they go somewhere else.
Our prosecution is not commensurate to the cases that are coming up, so we need to step up effort to ensure that we do a lot of awareness creation, particularly to rural communities all across Nigeria for prevention. We need to do more in the area of protection of the victims, of the survivors of trafficking in persons, as well as providing compensation for them to resettle them.
This regional approach will also take on the process of structurally linking research, migration dialogues, as well as capacity building, which will contribute to better policy development.
Looks like a onesie, like, a kid with a onesie and the thing here, because it was so big, because it wasn't made for, for females.
Meet Refilwe Ledwaba. She's South Africa's first black female helicopter pilot for the police service. It's been a journey for the 40-year-old who first had eyes for the medical profession after bagging a degree in biochemistry.
It was only after I finished university that, due to a whole lot of circumstances, I ended up in an airline as a cabin attendant. And that's when I started getting exposed to the aviation industry even more and understanding what it was. So that initial flight, that ignited that initial interest. And when I started working for an airline and I found this fascinating career, and I thought, I can fly, I can go to the front instead of being at the back. So, that's where it pretty much started.
With over 20 years of practice as a helicopter and fixed-wing plane pilot, as well as a flight instructor, Refilwe is looking backwards to groom those who will fill her shoes with her Girls Fly program Africa Foundation.
So we wanted to create, initially sort of a similar platform where young women can see other women that look like them doing, a career like that. Number two, information as well is important. From a very young age, they know that aviation or space industry is a career choice for them.
We joined this year's camp for flight simulation tour.
Right. More. Pressure.
Okay.
Heavy. More left. Yeah.
This is the first time that I'm doing something like this, so I'm excited. It's the first time. I don't even believe it.
Being in the simulator was very exciting but nerve-wracking at the same time. I have never ever been in a flight before. This was literally my first experience. This experience was extremely mind-blowing, very interesting but also mind-blowing.
More than 100,000 young girls, mostly from rural communities like Refilwe in Botswana, Kenya, Cameroon and South Africa, have participated in this pipeline program, which comprises schools' outreach programs as well as experiential workshops and camps like this. Refilwe says there are success stories to show.
We've got aeronautical engineers that are in the workplace. We've got young girls that are doing masters in aeronautical engineers in the UK. We have girls that have become air traffic controllers. So there are a lot. And if you go on our website, we actually profile them, where they are and what they're doing, to tell the story.
The Girls Fly program Africa also mentors boys on their schools' outreach programs. But Refilwe believes that for Africa to be even greater, there must be a deliberate focus on girls to change mindsets, even theirs, on what's possible.
And it's on these notes that we touch down on this edition. See you next time. I'm Bukola Joe Kitumbi.